Hello everyone, in this episode of Motive Garage we're going to show you what parts are going inside our 3.2 litre engine going into our R32 GTR. Now, in our last episode of Motive Garage, we showed you how we prepped our RB30 to handle over 1,000 wheel horsepower reliably. Now, in this episode, we're going to show you what parts we're going to put inside that engine. Now, if you're a long-time viewer of our channel, well, you know it goes without saying that we're going to be putting a Nitto Performance Engineering stroker kit inside our RB30 and using their entire parts catalogue. For those of you a bit newer to our channel and you need a little bit more proof of why we use Nitto Performance Engineering products, well, it's in the quickest GTR in the world, Metro. It's in the two quickest Pro Street GTRs in the world, Jun 2 and King 32, and pretty much every single GTR that runs at our event at Cootamundra, that runs in the 8s or 9s or 10s, uses Nitto Performance Engineering products. Safe to say that probably 80% of built GTRs use it here in Australia. And the good thing is, all the workshops that we deal with and all the GTR owners that we know, well, they report back to us on how their cars go, so we have the reliability track record of that product that we know about firsthand. Now, rather than have me talk about it, I'm going to have Jim from Nitto come in and tell you what parts we've decided to use in our car and why.
From having a normal off-the-shelf 3.2 kit that we supply as your 1600 horsepower kit, somehow he convinced us to give him one of our pre-release wide journal 3.2s, which is going to be our 2000 horsepower street kit. It's a 4340 with the wide journal and a few other bits and pieces which are unique to us. Part of that is also the unique all gallery design that we've got. Initially, the design was purely for drag application. So if some of you have actually seen some earlier episodes, you'd probably see one of the features that we had with our extreme drag kit, which is our 3000 horsepower kit. From that, we've actually then had a lot of guys that have actually asked us, can we do a street version of it? Here we go. He's actually got a 2000 horsepower kit going into his car, even though his block can handle 1100. And I dare say probably wants a 2000 horsepower kit so he can use it as clickbait. There are a number of features. Some of them are actually covered in the earlier vid, which you guys can probably go back and have a look at that. The wide journal, crankshaft, there are revisions made to the throws and whatever else. Let me say the whole idea of having the wide journal crankshaft now is to allow a lot of the RB32s now, which are making so much mid-range torque, we're finding that they're hurting the OEM style or the OEM width bearing. And we developed this crankshaft out of a need to cure the bearings crushing with a massively torquey 3.2. So yeah, that's basically covers a crankshaft without sort of getting too much into detail with it. The next integral part of the kit is the new connecting rod, totally redesigned from our previous 3.2 kit, but to be able to make closer to 2000 horsepower with a steel rod is quite a feat. Again, totally revised I-beam, totally revised around the big end area. It now comes standard with their CHE pin bush. We've got two options of rod bolts. In this particular kit, we're running the 7/16 ARP 2000 bolts. You also have the option of running the 7/16 custom H625 bolts as well. The last part of the 2000 horsepower street kit is the piston. One of the main features of this is it's a very streetable piston. It is based off our drag piston, so it runs the Turbo HD forging, which is designed for high horsepower drag application. It comes with friction reduction grooves, which are like anti-detonation grooves, expansion groove as well, PVD rings, which have been proven now to be quite a big step up from the previous rings that have been available on the market. They seal so much better. Things that seal better make more horsepower. Less blow-by means more power. Plus the upgraded pin, which again is designed to handle up towards that 2000 horsepower mark. Obviously this particular engine's only going to run around 1100 horsepower, so it only really needs the pin that we call our upgraded pin. There is another option for a pin, as there is with the rod bolts, where you can go for a pin which is a lot stronger, which is from a company called Trend in the US. So obviously one of the advantages of having this particular kit, which is rated at up to 2,000 horsepower, is that it'll run all day, every day. Whatever Andrew was going to put into it, it's going to cope with it. So as long as everything else is healthy around the outside, i.e. RB30 block, which is a little bit how you go on, 1100 is starting to push it. But, and we're future-proofing the car, because ultimately our plan is to go a billet block, where then we can turn the power right up to closer to 2,000 horsepower. But at that 1,000, 1,100 horsepower, you're buying it for forever and a day. So another new component which is due for release at the 2020 Nissan GDR Festival is the billet oil pump that we've spent quite some time developing. We have actually had a big call for a billet pump with an external relief valve, so that's something we're offering for the first time. A lot of guys now have sort of realised that they've got to run a lot more oil pressure in their high horsepower engine. So another thing that we are doing at the moment as well is we're now having a dash 10 inlet, which can be used as a second pickup, as well as a dash 8 outlet for if somebody wants to run oil pressure directly from the oil pump and monitor oil pressure here versus oil pressure at a particular point in the block. Pump's will be with our sign drive system, so you'll need the collar, and obviously the pump will be set up for it, ready to go. There'll be a feature on this in the near future anyway, so I'm not going to go too much into detail of the advantages of having that billet pump. At the moment it is a limited release. This is actually a pre-production one which will be going into Andrews for the GDR Festival, and once the GDR Festival comes around, we'll start releasing them to the pro dealers, and then they can distribute them from there. Another component which we find, and a lot of other people now finding, is critical for the RB to live with its oil distribution issues and whatever else, is getting the oil back into the sump as soon as we can. So we've got plenty of oil to feed the pump. Rehead drain kit that we've got available is a very straightforward fit into the back of the head. It comes with you've got your option whether you go a barb fitting or whether you go a dash 10 fitting off the back of it. It can be alternated from left to right, or you can have one feed in to the actual block itself and distribute from two positions. So something very, very small, but something you guys will appreciate. Your little oil restrictor. We've got oil restrictor that come in 3 different sizes. You've got your 1.1, 1.3, 1.5. We tend to find that the 1.1 is the smallest we like to go. Some components here that I've got which actually are critical to engine balances staying on RBs. As you start to make a lot of horsepower, we start to find harmonic balances will start to come loose from various reasons. We were finding it doesn't matter what we did, doesn't matter how much we tighten the bolts up and whatever else, balances would, no apparent reason, would spin. A couple of things that we actually found which eventually did actually solve the problem. One, using some billet washers which we developed for it. Again, these are covered in an earlier vid. Next up, we've got a series of engine gaskets and metal intake exhaust manifold gaskets and our DBS metal head gasket. The paper intake manifold gaskets, they pack it in with minimal amount of boost. So a common upgrade is actually using one of our metal intake exhaust manifold gasket kits. That comes with all the gaskets you need to do a full intake plenum, whether you're using an OEM plenum or an aftermarket plenum. And with that, you've also got the exhaust manifold gaskets between the head and the manifold, whether you use an OEM manifolds or a twin kit or a single turbo kit. This kit's going to come in handy for that, and that's something else we're using on Andrew's car. Metal head gasket. So in our particular design, we've got a multi-sheet dual bore seal, which means it's a double O-ring design. One of the things with any metal head gasket on an RB, if you don't get preparation, if you don't get the head decked properly, if you don't get the block decked properly, and it's absolutely what we call mirror smooth, these things are not going to want to seal properly. If you don't have the installation procedure done properly, and you don't have the right head bolts for it, eventually a metal head gasket on an RB, it's going to give way, it's going to fail. If it's done properly, you're never going to have a problem with it. So 3 important things: preparation, preparation, preparation. So make sure you get them right when you install them. We've had guys use this particular gasket in drag applications, some of the drag applications, and they've run 7-second passes quite successfully with this gasket, this exact same gasket design. So for what Andrew wants to do, he's 1100 horsepower, the gasket's not going to give way. Gasket set, again, pretty straightforward. It covers basically everything you'll need to build your engine, from seals, rocker cover gaskets, valve stem seals, and copper O-rings and washers and whatever else. So pretty comprehensive kit. Again, it's been around for quite some time. It's extremely popular with a lot of the pro dealers. You can't say gaskets are gaskets because we've seen quite a difference between cheap gaskets and what they can do and when they shrink over time and cause leaks and whatever else, and something like ours, which has been used for the last 15 years now. So that covers that, pretty straightforward. Just to sum it all up, we've actually now got 3 different kits. Original kit, which is still the most popular one, which is straight out of the box, capable of making at least 1500 horsepower. The new one, which is now the big daddy of the street scene, will end up being the 2000 horsepower kit, which Andrew's getting in his car, is the wide journal crankshaft. It's got the new connecting rod, which is rated for 2000 horsepower. It's got the CP Nitto Turbo HD forged pistons with the rings. That's using a 4340 material crankshaft. We don't need to use exotic materials in that because 2000 they'll do it all day, every day. It's been proven already. We've also got our extreme drag kit, which is the 3000 horsepower kit. That's with the EN40B crankshaft. Very, very similar design to Andrew's wide journal 4340 crank, which we'll be using in his car. But that uses alloy rods and a full drag piston, which is designed purely for motorsport application. Now that's got gas ports and all sorts of tricky bits, which are designed to handle the 3000 horsepower and pins and so on to go with it.
Well, the only other parts that are going to end up inside our RB30 block are ACL bearings and our Platinum Racing Products brace. Now this actually serves 2 purposes on an RB30 block. One is it's actually a 4-wheel drive adapter. So it has the 2 rows of bolt holes along here. We've obviously machined the block to suit. And this allows an RB26 4-wheel drive sump to go onto an RB30 because they don't bolt straight on. And obviously, what we've been spruiking about these for years now is this strengthens the block. It attaches to the factory girdle and helps stop main cap walk. It obviously helps the block stop twisting as much so that it doesn't crack as easily and just adds overall strength. There's the bolt kit that you get with it and the different attachments based on whether it's wet or dry sump. So essentially from here, we need to get all these parts over to CRD, start putting it together.